This film also had the creepiest Santa. And you could,
oh my god,
yes!
We need to find the fourth dimension, and by finding all these tiny little perfect things that happen in our neighborhood or in our town or whatever, we're gonna find the fourth dimension, and we're missing one. I'll pick Andrew Garfield. Peter 3.
Peter 3.
Ooh, that comic book filter.
This green ball?
This green tennis ball is Vecna, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're talking about Chippendales the dancers, right? Not
Yeah.
Chippendales the chipmunks? Okay, I was just making sure. I didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, God.
I've been seeing that. Did you see that meme that's like, that went around this week that was like, my family when they come home from trick-or-treating and I've got all the Christmas decorations coming out and the lady's like, surprise, surprise.
I have not seen that, but that sounds amazing.
Right?
I've seen that where it's like, surprise, surprise. Where it's like, things can't get worse at work. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
You're like, yep, story of my life.
Right?
Yep. Well, I know it's now November 1st, but, you know, I don't know where I was going with this. I'm just gonna hello, cinema peeps.
Hey, cinema peeps.
Hope you're having a happy Tuesday. It is officially November 1st.
It is,
when we're
yes,
recording this,
when we're
but
recording
we're
this.
we're still talking spooky month, so
Spooky month.
just bear with us. Bear with us. You get one more spooky night spectacular.
Right? Hell yeah.
You get one more spooky night spectacular. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap up some spookiness. I know you watched some spooky stuff. I watched some spooky stuff. And that piece of fluff just came into frame.
It
That
did. I was
slut.
like, we talk about spooky stuff and a spirit just appeared. It's like an orb or whatever.
Be gone, spirit. Well, okay, it's still here, but that's fine.
It's like, no, I want to come for spooky month.
You said spooky month? I'm here, bitch. Bitch. But, yes, I went out and saw the Five Nights at Freddy's.
Woot woot.
And I watched John Carpenter's Halloween on
Nice.
Halloween.
Hell yeah.
And you watched Pinhead, right?
No, we did. I didn't end up doing that. We had a bit of a well, not a detour. What do you call it? A I don't know. I don't even know what the word I'm talking about. But basically, no, we didn't. We ended up watching The Uninvited, which is another classic, spooky, kind of more. Is it a psychological thriller or just kind of like a thriller? Like there's like a mystery to it, but it's got some spookiness in there too, so it's good.
Yeah, when does one become a psychological thriller versus a regular thriller, which I feel both prey on psychological plays in the mind. So
Right?
why does one get that extra?
I guess like depending on the extremity of it, I don't know, because like I feel like there's some nowadays that are out, like that Midsummer and like a couple of those other ones that that actress is known for to be in, that are more like on the psychological side, because they kind of mess with your mind in different ways and stuff like that. But basically, I kind of always, in my mind, I always chalked a psychological thriller up to being something that's got a twist in it. But then again, maybe I'm just putting it wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I feel like sometimes even like reading IMDb, not IMDb, but like scrolling through Netflix or any streaming service, and they'll list whatever they think the movie is, and
In the
sometimes
category,
I'm
yeah.
like, we sure about that?
Right?
Are we sure about that?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you say.
Or there's a couple in there too that are like based on a book, and I'm like, are we sure this is really based on a book? Like maybe very loosely based on a book, but
The Bible.
yeah.
Based on a book. The Bible? Have you heard of it? Yeah, or based on a true story, and you're like, how true? Although I did learn interesting, I think I sent you the video a long time ago where they were talking about, just because there's, especially when it comes to like ghost stories, a lot of them are like, oh, based on a true story. And I've always wondered, like, well, how much?
Yeah.
To like what degree? And there was
Yeah.
a video kind of explaining, because if you make it too close, like, I know, like, sometimes if you make it too close to the subject material, like, you can be sued and all these other kinds of things. So I'll have to, like, rewatch it again and, like, refresh. It was very interesting, and I felt very informed, but apparently I already forgot everything because my brain's the size of a peanut. Where do we want to start?
I mean, I
so
am
much.
excited to hear your thoughts on Halloween. So I feel like we should just dive right into that one.
Hell yeah. So yeah, I watched John Carpenter's Halloween on Halloween.
Hell yeah. And I cannot remember. Have you seen it before, or was this your first time to seeing it? Oh, this was a first time watch.
This was a first time viewing.
Ooh, okay.
Very spookies, I know.
Yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yay.
I thought it was a fun time. It was funny because, yeah, like earlier the month I watched Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th. So I was like, well, it's just only appropriate if I watch Halloween on Halloween.
Hell yeah.
And it is interesting how different they are. But I will get into some other fun tips that I afterwards. But I'll focus on just Halloween itself. It's definitely a spook time.
Mm-hmm.
Spooky, creepy time. The one shot that I'm sure I've seen before, but maybe I don't know, seeing it again for the first time, where, like, Michael's, like, hidden in the shadow and he just kind of comes out of the shadows. I was like, damn, that's so fucking cool.
Right?
Like, so fucking good. And, like, I see why Dead by Daylight makes him, like, a stalky boy. Because, like, for the first, like, fucking half of that movie, he'd just be stalking.
Oh, yeah.
He'd just be standing around a corner, characters just on the phone. And you're like, what is going on? I also was a little confused at the beginning. There's this really cool one shot. Or, as I learned, it actually wasn't a one shot. But there was this part where the person picks up something off the ground and puts it on their face, and I didn't realize that was a mask. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Okay, yeah.
So that was a little bit of, like, a weird And then I immediately got distracted again because this girl was brushing her hair, and I was like, who brushes their hair without their shirt on? That is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Right?
I was like, huh? What girl? What?
Yeah.
And then, you see baby Michael killing his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then the movie kicks off. And then I think I kind of saw it, but didn't. I thought it was only a 10-year jump, but I think it was a 15-year jump. I missed that, but because math is hard sometimes, okay? Math be really hard.
It's true.
But yeah, it was very spooky. And yeah, I had a good time with it. I had a good time.
Yay, I'm glad.
I think I liked it better than Friday the 13th. At least the original one.
Yeah, I agree.
Which then was really funny because you had said, oh, you should watch the movies that made us, because they did an episode on Halloween.
Yeah.
And they did do one on Friday the 13th. So I watched both of those back to back right afterwards.
Excellent.
And it was just really funny.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, that beginning one shot actually wasn't a one shot.
Yeah. Yep.
It was technically a two-shotter. I mean, you probably already know this, but I'm going to tell it anyway. But I guess, like, back then, like, again, things that we maybe take for granted, like having steady cams or, I was going to call it a monopod, but that's not what it's called. Those new really cool things for DSLRs now. That's kind of like a steady cam, but
yeah,
not
the
quite.
gimbals or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the gimbals, But, like, I guess back then, Halloween was one of, like, the second movies they said to ever use that technology, or maybe the first.
I believe, yeah, you're right. I remember hearing that, yeah.
Like, that was wild to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because the technology was so new, and obviously you're still shooting on film.
Yep.
Oh, hi, Arnie. Oh, he still has his Scooby collar on. Oh, he's so cute.
He's got his little Scooby-Doo collar on.
He's so cute. Oh, and I'm wearing my Hex Girl shirt, so Arnie,
Perfect.
we are appropriate. We are appropriate.
Yes, for those who need context, yesterday was Halloween, and Arnie and I decided to do kind of a half-ass couple's costume together. So we put this nice little blue buff on him, and he was Scooby, and I had some brown pants and a green shirt, and I was Shaggy.
It was adorbs. Right, so the Steadicam could only hold so much film. It was a very small canister on there.
Yes, yeah.
And so they timed that opening shot, and they're like, oh, we're not going to be able to do it all. So that's why they reached for the mask, and then that's where they made their cut. But like, didn't even notice. So kudos to you guys. But
Right?
still, very, very cool.
Definitely, I have to agree. I think that's probably one of the most fascinating and cool things about like having like even like with the Disney shows where they have like the behind the scenes of how things were made.
Right.
It's just knowing like nowadays we take some of those things for granted because you know there's all these content creators out there who are like, oh, here's 10 cool transitions you can do for your video, but it's like back then that was just to solve a problem. It wasn't to brag about a cool shot they did. It was literally just, oh, we're running out of time, we can't, how can we achieve this but still make it seem like a one shot, and then that's how they, you know, are able to do it, right?
Right. There's so much like having to be creative.
Yeah.
And then another thing I thought that was really cool, because again, this was made like a shoestring budget indie film, and sorry, too many thoughts. I'll just continue with this one. I'll come back to my other thought. But at the very end, I guess they were supposed to cut it at the doctor's last line. I guess they were supposed to cut it to black, but then they had changed it to like have all these establishing shots to be like, oh shit, where is he? He could be anywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the shots they showed, I was like, oh, there's the knife on the floor again. That's kind of weird. But then watching the How It's Made guys, they were like, oh yeah, we basically, like, the one guy's like, we're lucky we kept a little bit, but we just barely had like some of these establishing shots again, so they had to just use it all just to kind of create this last montage of the film. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Again, it was fun to point out the, you know, error of like, the knife's still there, but obviously I don't think they had a choice in that matter. But still, very cool. What little they had, they're like, okay, here's how we're gonna finish the film. And it was kind of funny because I didn't realize the film was over. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I guess we're here. But I guess like thinking about it makes sense because it was like she stabbed him, he got back up, she stabs him again, he gets back up, doctor shoots him, you know, so that's like 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
I just for some reason thought it was going to still keep going for some reason, but I was like, oh, nope, we're ending it. Okay, cool. No. We'll just continue with the other 500 Halloween movies that are down the line.
Yeah, so exactly. But I think that's definitely, at least in my opinion, that's one of the like great things about that movie is just because it adds that he's unkillable like aspect, and just that particular scene, like when you see the shot and he's gone, it's like, oh shit. What? Oh shit!
Where
like,
is he?
It's that. So yeah, and I think that's probably why I would say. I mean, I don't know, but I would say like Michael Myers has to be definitely one of, if not the top, like horror movie villain, iconically, just because of how they establish him, and just like he doesn't die, he's everywhere, and he's like, it is very believable, like the story that they use with him. Like, I mean, with Jason, it's kind of like there's still that supernatural aspect where it's like, you know, he died but he comes back to life and he's possessed by the voice of his mother or whatever, whereas this is like, this could actually happen in real life. There could be some psycho out there in a white mask and coveralls just stalking some babysitters or just stalking someone on the street and deciding to just, you know, terrorize them. So yeah, and it still stands to this day.
And fun fact for everybody, apparently it was going to be called Babysitter Killers, and then they changed it to Halloween. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yep. And then the last thing I want to say on the How It's Made thing, which I guess sometimes I just be stupid, okay? Sometimes I'd be really stupid. But like watching the Halloween movie, like I said, I really enjoyed like the suspense, the thrill of it. And then until like they started pointing it out, I was like, oh yeah, it's very like minimal. Because I think it was one of the producers on I was talking. I'm sorry, I already forgot. Talking about how I guess as a kid he would listen to like these spooky radio shows, or you know, like a podcast now these days. Yep. You know, and so their goal with the film was to kind of do that, to leave it up to like the, you know, the audience's imagination. So again, and of course they were like, oh yeah, we're not going to have any blood. And the art department's like, oh, what? And I was like, oh yeah, like it's very like, I will say like they probably could have had more blood on Laurie's arm, because he definitely gets her with a knife, gouges her. Like there was like maybe like a little of blood. Yeah. That was one of the only times I was like, I feel like it's okay if you want to put a little extra blood on that point. Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, it was like very like almost no blood, and like very minimal, like, you know, everything was from the shadows, and I was like, oh yeah. But like I think it makes it cooler, and obviously I think it makes it hold up a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like I said, right after the Halloween one, they had Friday the 13th, and they were talking about the special effects guys who were working on that. And, and not to diss them and be like, haha, your special effects weren't that good. But I mean, I don't know, just having it be more minimal made it stand out longer.
Yeah.
Or stand the test of time longer than maybe having this outright crazy gore. But in the same vein, I think that was like early days of special effects makeup, and it was still very cool. And they talked about the shot of Jason Voorhees' mom getting her head chopped off, because I thought that was like well done, and them explaining how they rigged stuff and everything like that. And I was like, I think all that's really cool still. But I think between the two, I think I preferred Halloween.
Yeah.
And it was just funny because when they were talking about like how it's made, Friday the 13th, they were talking about how they basically, like, Halloween had just came out, and they were like, okay, we want to make Halloween but gorier was their goal. And I thought that was so funny because, like, oh yeah, we pretty much ripped them off, like, oh look, this event happens before the film, and I was like, oh my god, you're right, they follow very similar story beats. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I would argue that at least Halloween, like, kind of, at least with, obviously, I think the doctor character, like, sprinkled in a little more of Michael's origin throughout the film versus Friday the 13th, and they were just like, whoops-a-daisy, story, here it is, surprise!
Right?
But it's interesting how they pulled inspiration from, I'd say each other, but more how Friday the 13th had pulled from Halloween.
Right? And then I guess it'll kind of
probably gone back and forth at some point, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And it's funny how, like, all the horror movies after that kind of stemmed from there, because then, you watch a movie like Scream, and, like, one of the kind of, like, tongue-in-cheek things that they do in there is, like, explain the rules of a horror movie, where it's like, oh, you're gonna die if you drink, if you take drugs, if you have sex, if you say I'll be right back. Like, those are all the the rules of, oh, someone's gonna get killed, if you're gonna get murdered, you have to check off all these boxes, right? And so it's funny to think that. And remind me too, just because you've just watched it more recently than me, but I'm pretty sure they say in the how it's made for Halloween that, like, either just horror movies in general were losing their steam in the 70s.
Yes.
And Halloween was kind of one of those movies that, like, brought it back, like, kind of resurrected the horror genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, I know, like, you recommended it to me, but I recommend everybody else you should watch it anyway, because it's a fun time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I also got through halfway through the Freddy Krueger one. Even though I was like, oh, I didn't watch it, but I was like, oh, I kind of just got sucked in, because when they were talking about Friday the 13th, they were talking about how the director, who also had, like, never directed horror before, which I also thought was really dope, he was like, oh, I need help on the script. Oh, I'll talk to this kid down in my dorm. Oh yeah, he just happens to be Wes Craven. And I was like, isn't that the guy who made Freddy?
Yeah.
And so it's funny how, Halloween to Friday the 13th to, like,
Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah.
Kind of how they all have this weird connection. Again, talking how, the horror wasn't doing so well. And then, Halloween came into the picture. And then you had people like Friday the 13th who were like, ooh, let's capitalize on that. And then when I was starting to watch about Freddy Krueger, they were like, oh yeah. And then all of a sudden there was just, like, this onslaught of copycats. And then how Nightmare on Elm Street was going to stand out from everybody else. So it was cool to see that kind of evolution.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's really dope. So
That's
I'm
cool.
planning to finish it, but I was like, oh, it's way too late. I have to get to bed. So I gotta go sweeps.
I definitely need to revisit that again, because, I really enjoyed watching those. Hell
it's
yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's fun. And all the little tidbits were fun to learn.
Yeah. I ended up watching speaking of, like, behind the scenes and stuff, I ended up watching the behind the scenes of some of the Conjuring films too. And one of the things that the Conjuring universe, I think, does to kind of, like, I don't know if they necessarily do it, because, like, again, like I said, they're based off true stories, true case files, but in each film they almost add, like, an imaginary monster into, or some sort of creature into the story too. And it's like, I don't know if they do that to kind of add a little unrealism to the true story of it, to kind of, like, make it not so scary. I don't know, but they talk about, like, how they design some of the creatures and stuff like that. And in you talking about like with Halloween, how they're like, less is more. I think I would agree in that, and how like Halloween is able to still stand the test of time. And regardless, these movies are great, but I do notice, having gone back and watched some of the Conjuring films, those monsters kind of take you out of the spookiness of it, because they're not real. And they did like try to add a lot of practical scares into majority of those films. So adding like kind of like a CG monster is just kind of like, okay, like, let's get this over with. Let's get back to the story, all right?
Yeah, I've seen this before. Cut our losses.
Yeah. So like with Halloween and stuff like that, it's nice that like they kept to, I mean, they had to, like, financially wise, but still they were keeping to like a less is more approach, which is what adds to the creepiness and the spookiness of the story and stuff.
Yeah, and like kind of like you said earlier, like it obviously made it stand out from a time where horror movies were not doing well.
Yeah.
It made it different. Because I think they even said the critics didn't like it, but obviously audiences loved it, and pretty much how they had to like use their own finances to like have it be shown in theaters. But I mean, it paid off. So
Yep.
There you go.
Exactly.
Although speaking of, I don't know why this reminded me of CGI creatures. I don't know. That just kind of reminds me of Five Nights at Freddy's for some reason. I don't know why. It just does. Maybe because they're animatronic creatures. Although,
it
is wild. They actually, I didn't realize this because they almost seemed like they were real, and yet not real on screen at the same time. But I guess they were, made by the Jim Henson Company, so they are like
Really?
full-size puppets. If you go see behind the scenes stuff, like they're there.
Oh.
I think there's probably like a little bit of like CGI at some points, but I think most of the time they are like real.
Really? Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, like let's
weird.
dive into it. I do want to know your thoughts. I haven't seen it, but I want to know your thoughts. Like, I kind of want to see it now. Now that you say that,
Which is funny because I really want you to see it because I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
Mostly because I don't want to say too much to spoil the experience, because I feel this is a movie you need to experience.
Okay.
But let me just start off by saying I don't do well with horror movies, and I did not get scared at all. I did so good.
Wow.
And then my friend proceeded to say, well, it wasn't that scary. And I was like, I need this win, okay? So we're going to say I did really good. I need this win. But yeah, it's definitely like a movie, like, yeah, as I figured, critics did not like it, but fans loved it. So it is, I think, probably more geared to the fan base.
Yeah. Which
so
makes
that's
sense.
why I would be very interested to see like your perspective on it.
Okay.
As someone who a little bit about the franchise, but not a lot.
I've watched people play the game before on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if I ever played it. I don't think I ever played it, but I definitely watched people play it. So I do know.
Same. I've never played the game, so I've just watched people.
Yeah. So yeah, I do know the general basis of the story of it or whatever.
Okay. But yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
But in general, without trying to spoil too much, I enjoyed it. I thought it was like, again, saying that like, the animatronics were real, like puppeteered things, like their set design was like on point.
Nice.
It was incredible.
Nice.
They did a lot of hard work. And probably one of my favorite parts was because I always send you game theory and film theory videos, and so MatPat, I'd say like one of his big series he did was covering all the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, and he has for like 5+ years now.
Oh wow.
And he's in the movie and as a cameo.
Really?
And it was really funny. He came on screen and everyone in the theater was cheering and clapping, and it was really fun.
Nice. Oh, that's so cool.
And it was cute to see because he was like, oh, I could finally tell you guys I'm in the movie. And so he had shown some footage of him, what it was like for him on set and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was cute reading all the comments and being like, oh yeah, in my theater that also happened. I was like, aw, that's really sweet.
That's so cool.
And he even said his line. He's like, but that's just a theory.
Nice. Oh, cool.
So
That's awesome.
It was very cool to see. And I mean, like I said, this movie is made for fans. So there were so many Easter eggs, like
Nice.
up the wazoo. But I think what really impressed me was the set design for this. And again, the fact the animatronics were like real puppeteered things. Because it also gave it like this weird like feeling of like they're real but not real. Like, I don't know. And it kind of worked.
Okay.
I liked it. And Josh Hutcherson was great.
Hell yeah.
And Matthew Lillard was great.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, it was a good time. There's also like this weird point in the film where like my friend joked like how it's not a horror movie. It did turn to like a weird 80s film in the middle. It was very weird. But yeah, I thought it was good. And I mean, I know all my friends, because we did like a little like, friend night out to go watch it. I know the biggest concern everyone had was because like in the origin of the games, you're just looking at security cameras, and it's heavy, like the games, at least in like the early ones, they're heavy on jump scares.
Yeah.
So we were worried like, oh, that's all this movie is going to be.
Yeah.
Is jump scares. And I was impressed how little they used it. Obviously, like, I think it's just part of a horror trope, so you're going to be using it, but it wasn't like their sole way of like delivering scares.
Which is awesome.
I did appreciate.
That's awesome, because like you've heard me say it time and time again. Like jump scares are great when they're done within reason. I feel like there's just been a whole handful of horror movies that came out in the last few years where it was just like jump scare after jump scare after jump scare after jump scare, and that's all they focused on was like how can we raise the bar higher for these jump scares, but it really added nothing to the overall adventure of the film going through. So that makes me happy to hear that, but also intrigued and excited to see it myself. So yeah, I'm definitely
like
excited.
There's one shot I'm thinking of where they did like, it was weird how they introduced like the scare was like half jump scare but also half like, again, using your like imagination to like witness the gore, and it was like, and me and my friend were like that's pretty good.
Nice.
But yeah, like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, especially in terms of story, because I want you to watch it and experience it and tell me what you think.
Heck yeah.
Because I know, like, I do have a couple little weird notes, but I think they're more filmmaking notes versus, like, how faithful they stayed to, like, the games.
Okay.
Because I can't remember, because, again, we talk all the time. So, the hard thing is, I think, in creating this movie and creating this world, is that the lore of these games are wild. Okay, like I think any average Joe Schmo would be like, what the actual fuck, what is it's very hard to like, and I don't want to be like not inclusive, but it's like it sometimes there's a lot of it, and sometimes it's confusing as fuck. Okay, and that's even from somebody who is really into it. Sometimes they'll say stuff and my eyes will glaze over and be like, what the actual hell, guys, what are we doing, why are we here, what is happening? So, like, I feel like they made it, I think they took all the best parts and, like, I think made it into a film.
Nice. Okay.
Without making it too complicated, which I appreciated.
Excellent.
There's still, like, a couple things, but again, I think it's just more from, like, a filmmaking perspective. But I think someone put it best where it's, like, it's not a masterpiece, but, like, it was made with all the best intentions and honors, like, the source material.
Good.
And I think
that's good.
That's the best.
Heck yeah. And if it was a fun time overall, I mean, that's what more can you ask for, right?
Right? I had a hoot nanny. Although I heard some kids like walking on, they're like, man, that was so bad. And I was like, oh. I mean, that made me sad, but I was also like, you know what? Like, they're obviously entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah.
But then my little gears were like whirling in my head. And I was like, well, what made it bad?
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I don't know. I don't think it was, but
And it depends too. Like there's so many factors. Like if they're avid game players, maybe they have high expectations of certain things. And like we've said before too, like a lot of times when they make these movies, they try to make it so it appeals to a wider audience. So some of the stuff that maybe like the, diehard fans would want to see might not get put in there because an average moviegoer who doesn't play the games and is just wanting to like get a kind of teaser about it, it's not going to make any sense to them. It's just going to go fly right over their heads.
Right. And I would, again, as my friend said, it really wasn't that scary of a movie. So if you were maybe going in thinking it was going to be scare after scare after scare, it's not. I would say it focuses so much more on like the story, which, like, I don't know. That's why I got into Five Nights at Freddy's, was like this complicated lore and like hidden stuff in between game files and like secret codes you have to put in to find the special ending or do this or do that kind of thing.
Which honestly makes sense because like I don't know much, but again, like from the little I do know about the game, the first couple were just it was like a game of red light, green light. So it's like, how much can you really, do with that type of like when that's the ultimate kind of gameplay? So having all the extra stuff in there to kind of keep it interesting and like how, you got all that stuff in the back of your mind while you're still like trying to, achieve the goals or whatever. I think that's interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I really do hope they continue at least making like another movie. Like you don't have to have a threequel, like whatever, but I would be interested to see how they want to continue shaping the lore of at least in my, again, as we talk about how like, DC's TV shows and the movies are different cinematic universes. I feel like at the end of the day, I think the games, the books, and if the movie series continue, are all going to have different lore that are parallel to each other but different in some ways. And
interesting,
which I think gives Scott Cawthon a lot of creative, freedom, which on one hand I think is very cool, but sometimes can be very fucking frustrating when you're like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like it. So
nice.
There you go.
That's awesome. Well, honestly, you just made me even more hyped to go see it. So I might have to make that my weekend activity.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yes.
Everything you said, I just checked off all the boxes for me. So I'm like, all right, let's go see it.
Yes. Boy. All right, guys. But I think that will conclude Spooky Month. And you know what that means.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise. I was gonna say, did you see that meme where I saw it on Halloween Day where it's like treasure the holiday because this woman's defrosting as we speak, and it's Mariah Carey in an ice block.
I did see that. Yeah.
I was like, hell yeah.
Right.
So maybe next week we'll be diving into some Hallmark films, but mostly we're gonna see what is playing and what we wanna get our little grubby fingies on.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the ones last year I kind of want to revisit again. There were a couple good ones that I feel like might become like
sometimes there's some
staples.
Secret bangers in there, and sometimes there's some really
right. Like that one with Jonathan Bennett, I really really liked the babysitter one.
Oh yeah,
that one was so sweet, and I kind of want to watch that one again this year.
You should watch The Christmas House.
The Christmas House. Okay.
Yes, it should be on demand. It was last year, and I think last year they made Christmas House 2. But I haven't watched that one.
Okay.
But I'd recommend watching the first one.
Okay,
it's a good time.
Nice.
I enjoyed it.
Nice. Also kind of want to watch the Three Wise Men and a Baby
I was
again.
just about to say, all I can think about is Three Wise Men and a Baby. That's all I can think about, and that dumbass scene. So, I'm watching that one.
Hell yeah. Nice.
But, yeah, thanks for watching Cinema Peeps. We really appreciate it. And
we hope you had a great Halloween.
Yeah. Hope you got lots of candies, or you gave out lots of candies and saw cute costumes.
Yeah.
Real good times.
Yeah.
But that shit's over. It's now Christmas, baby. Mariah Carey is thawing as we speak. She is getting fucking ready.
She is getting prepared.
And speaking of which, you guys should also prepare by hitting the subscribe button, because from now for a while, it's going to be Christmas until the end of the year for us.
Yeah.
And considering leaving this video a little legacy, do you like horror or Halloween or as we talked a lot about behind the scenes stuff. Like, also let us know in the comments down below. Is there any Halloween movies this year that you watched, or old, new, or whatever that you really enjoyed? Let us know so our ever-growing list of movies to watch can just continue to grow.
We will talk and discuss about all the content until we can't no more. So,
basically.
Right?
And spoiler alert, we will never stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
But anyways, guys, watch all the content, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Monkey.
Monkey.
And swing.